Hello, bass family, and welcome to Everything Bass. Hey, we're at Creating Jazz Walking Bass Lines Unit 8, and it makes me feel so good. Maybe there was a couple weeks I didn't post either a Creating Jazz Walking Bass Lines or a 7-day bass player jazz real book workout. Those two series I've been kind of going back and forth with to give the people who want to study jazz and improve in that area something to work on. And just because I got on different series and was doing some things, it'd been a couple weeks, and I love it. I got people reached out to me via Facebook, via email, saying, "Hey, is there going to be another one? What's the next step? What do you recommend?" And it makes me feel good that you guys are paying attention and that I'm supplying something you guys want. So I thought about what should I do when working on the fundamentals. Remember, these are very basic ideas on how to play through jazz real book songs or jazz standards. And in this case, I thought 3/4. You know, jazz waltzes are so popular, and some of the greatest jazz songs of all time are in 3/4. So some of the rules that I've been showing you, the hints and suggestions for playing jazz bass lines have all been in, all the units before have been in 4/4. So little rules like, you know, in a measure with 4 beats, it's strong beat, weak beat, strong beat, leading tone. But what about when there's only 3 beats in the measure? So we're going to talk about that today. And again, we're covering some very basics, some things that are, get you started. This isn't the end all be all. And, you know, what my fear is, I'm going to show you guys some simple ways to play a 3/4 jazz bass line. And, you know, people go, "But I heard this guy do this and I heard this guy do it." Yeah. There's so much beyond this. Improvising walking bass lines, there's no end to it. You can't learn all there is to learn about it. You can always find new ways to do it, new ways to manipulate it and create tension and release and new styles and all that. So I'm just giving you this first step, okay? So when we're talking about 3/4, one thing, today's song we're using is "Someday My Prince Will Come." For the written examples, and there's going to be a special one, you can download the chart by going to my Patreon page, which you'll find the link in the description below. You can go there. If you're a Backstage Pass member, just find Creating Jazz Walking Bass Lines Unit 8, find that post, look on it. There's an there's an attachment. Download the attachment. It's this chart that I'm talking about. If you're not a subscriber, I'd love to have you. Your support actually really helps me continually improve. I was just able to get some sound reinforcement kind of baffles that I'm going to put up to make this a little less echoey, like you can hear right now. And I got materials for that thanks to my Patreon supporters. So thank you very much. Okay, let's go. I'm going to take a little different approach to this. I'm going to talk about what to play underneath the melody. So jazz standards, after sometimes an intro or not, the melody is kind of given to the audience to kind of set up the theme of the entire performance. And in this case, we all know this. "Someday my prince will come." That's the melody. Under that, the bass player usually, under the melody like that, we don't walk quarter notes. We don't go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're trying to leave space and breathing room so the melody is highlighted and we can pick our spots. So what I want to do is start with just have you playing dotted half notes. Now, dotted half notes is sustained for the count of 3. So you're playing 1 note for the entire measure. Most of the time, that's going to be a root. Looking at this, like the written example, I'll play it real quick and then I'll talk about what it is. So here it is. It's okay. All but one of those notes was the root, and that's fine. Remember, when the melody's being played, the focus shouldn't be on our line. If the focus is on our walking line, we've probably done something wrong. So you're going to want the focus to be on the melody, and one of the nicest things you can do, it's a little monotonous to do it all the time, but it's a good starting point, is just play dotted half notes. Now, if you look at measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, measure 6, the chord is G7 sharp 5. This composition has a lot of dominant 7 sharp 5s, and they sound beautiful. For that, instead of playing a G, I played a D sharp. And I'm playing the sharp 5. It's a very featured note. Now, hopefully you guys didn't hear it as like, oh, what's that note? Why didn't he play root? Because it blended so well in with the chord. And when you look in context of the line, I played a C because the chord previous is a C minor 7. I play a C minor 7. I play the D sharp, which is the sharp 5 of G down a 7. But that's also the minor third of the C that I was just on. So that little common tone pulls those two chords together and makes them blend real nicely, and that's why that note didn't really stand out like, ooh, that's a sharp 5. Because I remember a sharp 5 can sound a little bit rough. I mean, it can on its own, I think it sounds pretty, but some people are like, ooh, that sounds harsh. So instead of playing the root, if I had played, so the 3 chords, C minor 7, G7 sharp 5 to a C7, so the minor third becomes a major third on the C7. If I would have played roots, it'd be C, G, C, fine, no problem, that's wrong with it. But you can look for opportunities to take some of these cool notes and put them in context. Now go by going C, G sharp, C. It also really blends with the melody there. Now, I've said this before in videos, but you'll notice a lot of times when you watch a jazz guy play, it doesn't have to be upright, like, I don't know, I just did that. But when the player's playing his walk line, if you watch the lip, they're singing the melody. Even when someone's soloing, you can see these jazz giants singing the melody to themselves. And what that's allowing them to do is really still make a bass line that harkens to it, that actually quotes it at times, that supports it. So the theme of that melody is brought throughout the tune. And that's the power that the bass has. It's exciting, actually, that we can do that. We can craft our walking line to put little elements here and there that reminds the listener, oh yeah, okay, that's the melody, which, as long as you're not being busy or intrusive on whoever else is playing, makes the solo sound better, I think. So, all right, so in that first example, I gave one example when you don't have to play the root. Try others. Look throughout the, by the way, for the tune, I just decided to do the first 8 bars because I wanted to show progression, and doing the entire chart would have taken a lot of video time. So, yeah, make up your own line and see what you like. Start by just playing the roots, then look for opportunities. Maybe you play a third. It doesn't have to be a sharp 5. And what you're looking is, by itself, it might not make sense to do, but when in context with what you're doing and how it supports the melody, it can become very powerful and beautiful. All right, so the next thing you want to do is the classic. The classic is a half note with a chord note. Bum, 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 bum. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, example for that is this. There's a real kind of lilt to that kind of instead of like when you're really walking quarter notes, there's kind of this bubble bounce, this swing. There's a nice, more relaxed swing to this. And definitely when you think about the melody, this really supports the melody well, and it doesn't have to be just for the song, but it's very common. If you start listening to like jazz waltzes and hearing what the bass player plays in the melody, there'll be a lot of half note and quarter notes. So what notes? Well, you know what? There's a lot of you can do. A lot of times I'll make the first note the root, or third or fifth. I'll stick with triad tones. But the second note, I'm really using it like in a bar 4, the last beat in a bar 4 beats. I use that as more of a like gateway to the next chord. Here I kept it pretty inside. If you look, again, if you've downloaded the chart, I'll try to verbally tell those who aren't Patreon supporters. I start with the root of B flat to the 5th. Classic jazz roots and fifths. Classic, no problem. Not going to offend anybody. Now, when it goes to the D, which the D has a sharp 5, I play the D, but I don't play the sharp 5 this time. I play the major third because that's a half step away from the next tonic, which, actually I did something a little creative here. On the E flat dominant, E flat major 7, which is the third measure, I start on the G, which is the third. So I use the F sharp of the D7 sharp 5 as a half step to get me to that third of the E flat. And then on the third beat of the E flat major, that's when I play the tonic. So I've kind of flipped it. I've started with the third and went to the tonic. Afraid I might have lost you on that. So I'm going to kind of slowly talk through the first three measures. I play in B flat major, I play the root, then the fifth, which is an F. Next thing I play is the D, which is the root of the D7 sharp 5, the major third of the D7, the F sharp, but instead of going to E flat, I go to the third of E flat, which is G, then I go to the E flat. Let's hear that. I'll play along with the loop and you can hear it. Okay, just that much. Actually, well, little technical thing happened down there, and I'm just glad that I was actually able to play through it. So you see, you don't always have to start on the root. You can start on a third or a fifth, and use the reason to make the line. I mean, the reason to do it is because you want the line to be smooth. I was playing the D7. I played the root and the major third. I'm right there to the major third of the E flat. If I wouldn't have done it, that has a appeal of its own. I'm just saying in this case, I wanted to walk up to that third. Yeah. And then let's take a look. Do I need to go through the whole thing? You know, I go from there. I play the, after playing the third of the E flat to the tonic, I then go to the root again of G. But here's a cool thing. I go back to the sharp 5 of the G dominant 7 sharp 5, which is technically a D sharp. This is where we're going to get into that enharmonic equivalent. The D is sharped on a G7 sharp 5, but it was the tonic, the E flat was the tonic of the E flat chord. So even though it's the same pitch, I call it a different thing because of how it applies to the chord I'm playing on. Don't get hung up on that. You know, hopefully, if it didn't make sense, let me know in the comments below. So why is that particularly cool? So if we back up to E flat, we're playing the third of the E flat to the tonic of the E flat to the tonic of the G7 sharp 5 to the sharp 5, which is the E flat. That's again common tone. I'm pivoting off the same pitch to make those two chords really seem to fit together and not be so disparate. So I've got this. And then I go to the C. Now, one thing about the C minor 7 that's kind of interesting is, remember, we don't always have to play up. We can play down in pitch. And so I played the root and I go to the minor 7, which is the B flat below the root. Because I want to head, looking ahead, I was like, oh, I want to get to that low G again. So I go C, the minor 7 to the tonic of G. And this time, similar to the past, I'm on the G7 sharp 5. I play the G. Then I play B natural, the major third, because it's a half step to the C. So I'm walking up to that C. There's stuff there that you can harvest for sure. And again, probably the best thing to do. If you were my student and you were coming to me in person, one thing I would do is I'd give you this written out bass line, and I'd say go home and write under each note what the interval is to the chord right above it, or the chord that's you're supporting with the bass line, so that you would make these realizations like, oh cool, that was the tonic of 1, but then the same pitch next measure becomes a sharp 5 and stuff like that. That's value, and that also sticks. That's what sticks, so that when you're playing, you remember these things. There's no shortcut for that. Okay, so we have so far worked on just dotted half notes, playing one note for the entire measure, playing a half note to a quarter note, half note to a quarter note. So you're playing 2 notes per measure, but you can actually walk a line. You can actually walk 3 notes per measure. And here's where, again, there's a lot of freedom to do different things, but I have a tendency to play like a root third or fifth on the first beat. Second beat can be a scale tone, but I try not to add too much tension. I want, usually I'm playing another chord tone so that those 2 notes in the listener's ear, they get the tonality of the chord. But the third note has something more to do to where we're going. The third note is a hallway. Remember we talked about that. Part of the measure is the room. The last beat, the last thing you play is a hallway to get to the next room. And they've got to relate. They've got to connect somehow. And that's what I'm doing here. So again, if you have the sheet in front of you, starting on that B flat major, I do something very simple. I play B, D, F, major triad. No problem. It's not overly simplistic. It's supportive. It definitely gives the audience, by playing all chord tones and in that order, they understand that we're in some form of B flat major chord. Now, here's another example. After playing that, I go to a G flat, which, I'm sorry, there it is. In my mind, I was saying G flat, but on the next chord is a D7. It's an F sharp, okay? So I'm playing the F sharp. And I go back to the root, and then I go to a G sharp, because that's the sharp 5. So I get this line. All right? Hopefully it makes a lot of sense. I'm making these choices, and granted, in those first two examples, I'm using just chord tones. I don't think I made that my theme. I wrote this a week ago, so I want to make sure that was... No, because I see some scale tones in there. But the idea is to think of the measure 3 as like the first two beats have to convey, I think, has to convey what the chord is. Can the second beat be a scale tone? Sure. But certain scale tones are more... have less tension than others. Like a nice major second, will have less tension than, say, maybe putting a 7 in, at a certain time, or a 4 on a major chord at the wrong time can sound a little bit weird and can make the listener confused as to what the tonality of the chord is. And again, you can find examples where people have done it successfully, but for just the beginning, getting you going, this is a good step. So that's what I want you to do, is I want you to look. Now, I want to be very clear about this. If you're struggling with this concept, take some of the freedom of choice away. Do just triads and just play root 3-5, and adjusting for the sharp 5s. But like looking at this, I could play root 3-5, 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 root 3-5. That's a great starting point. That's invaluable. If you can't do that, it'd be irresponsible for me to try to get you to do something else. So make that your starting point. Just play root 3-5 for the first three, for each measure. Just root 3-5 of whatever the chord is, root 3-5. Then you might want to stick just with chord tones, but change the order. Don't necessarily go, maybe go root 3-5, and the next chord 3 root 5. The next chord maybe be 5 3 root. Mix that up. If it's too difficult to make that decision on the fly, this is where it's helpful if you can notate music. Write it out and then read it. And by writing it out, you can see some of these, slopes that you want to make and some of these connections a little easier. You won't always have to write it out. You just write it out at the beginning to get it down. Now, as a plus for my Patreon supporters, the idea is combining these three ideas. When is it cool just to play a dotted half note and then follow it maybe with 3 quarter notes and then play a half note to a quarter note, things like that. So the last example I'm giving to my Patreon supporters is a written out 8 bars where I mix and mingle, and I actually throw in a couple new things, like a bunch of 8th notes in a row to kind of rhythmically add interest. So check them out, please. And I'm also going to make this offer to my Patreon supporters. If you write out, maybe, find the chart, get yourself a real book. If this is something you're interested in, you just should have a real book. And you can get them from any music store, online. There's a bunch of places. Find the entire chart to Someday My Prince Will Come. Write out a bass line. Or if you can't write out the bass line, record yourself playing the bass line and send it to me. For my Patreon supporters, I like to do one-on-one stuff. I like to check your work, see your progress, hear your progress, make suggestions. If anything, maybe just confirm, yeah, you've got it. That's the right thing to do. So that's one thing that I like that I can do for my Patreon supporters, and I appreciate those who utilize that. I'm here for you. Okay, so you get it? There's 3 starting points rhythmically and melodically for you to tackle jazz waltzes. Half note, quarter note, dotted half note, I should have started there, and then 3 quarter notes. And then mix and match and make those, and you can do some really beautiful things. Now, at one point, if it's a burn-in thing, they're just going to want you probably to keep time and primarily play 3 quarter notes. So you're going to want to spend a lot of time, doing the triad exercises like that, You can also take and play like root 2-3 and add a scaled tone in root 2-3 and work that through systematically through the entire chart and see how that goes. All right. Well, what do you guys think? I would love to help you. If this was a bit longer video, if I lost you at any point, please, you're not going to offend me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Just let me know, hey, around such, it's helpful to give a timestamp, like at 12 minutes and something, you mentioned something, I don't understand what that means, or can you go over that again? Absolutely. If I can, I'll do it in the comment section. If not, I'll do a follow-up video. All right, my brothers and sisters of bass, love spending this time with you. I hope this is helpful, and let me know how I'm doing. The simplest way is just hit the like. If you give the little thumbs up, that tells me, okay, this is valuable, and this lets me know this is important to the person. And of course, subscribe to the channel, because at points I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, when are you going to do this next video? And I'd already done it, but because they hadn't subscribed to the channel and hit that bell icon, they weren't notified when it was uploaded, and I upload so much that sometimes you can lose it. All right, so do those things for me. Share this. Let's try to grow the community. I'm not really interested in monetizing this site and having ads pop up. It's not something I'm interested in doing right now. So I'm just saying, let's grow the community just so we have more people here. We're already great. We have over 1,000 subscribers, and that represents only half of the people that actually watch my videos. You're looking at the analysis of all my stats and stuff. More than half of the people that watch the video aren't even subscribed. So we're really reaching 2,000 bass players, which is exciting to me, and I love it. All right, let me know how I'm doing. Let me know what I can do better. Let me know if I need to repeat anything. And if not, I'll see you at the next video. Thank you so much.